and welcome to the Shrewton Primary School podcast, What Do You Do? Hosted by myself, Emily Holmes, head teacher, and the pupils of Shrewton Primary School. We are here to ask the questions that you want answered. Covering careers from writing to nursing and everything in between, we want you to be inspired by the people who love what they do every day. So, ask anything. Would you like to know their most successful moment, the favourite part of their job, or maybe the barriers they've had to overcome to get to where they are today? No question is off limits. We hope you enjoy what this series has to offer and look forward to hearing your feedback. But for now, sit back, listen and enjoy. For the third episode of our What Do You Do podcast, we are joined by the wonderful nurse Emily Holmes. I have had the pleasure of knowing Emily for just over a decade now, and I can honestly say that she is the kindest and most generous person I have ever had the pleasure of associating myself with. It was absolutely no surprise when nursing was her career path of choice. So give this one a listen if you want to find out the highs and lows of the nursing career, to find out subjects that most helped her on her journey, and to find out the support they get when times are really tough. It's well worth a listen. Big shout out also to Charlie and Evie, who have participated to do the first co-hosted podcast, and they did brilliantly. We hope you enjoy. Okay, and welcome to our third episode of our What Do You Do podcast. This week is extra special because not only am I being able to record in our own school, but I also have two of our wonderful Year 5-6 pupils co-hosting with me this week. So I'd like to welcome the lovely Evie, who's one of our Year 6 pupils, and the lovely Charlie, who's one of our Year 5 pupils, who have bravely decided to start this new-found project we're developing week by week. And our guest this week is a specialist nurse who generally works in Swindon Hospital and is Emily Holmes. Welcome.
Hi.
So this week we are going to start. I had a lovely meeting with our Einstein class children, who are our reception children. They're our youngest children in the school. And we're going to start with some of the questions from them. So Charlie, I believe you are going to kick us off. Off you go.
So Molly would like to know, what is the hardest part of your job?
I think the hardest part is probably not being able to make everybody better. You can't always fix it for everybody, and actually when you go into this kind of job that I do, healthcare in general, you go because you want to help people, you want to make people better. And actually I think in the role that's not always possible. Unfortunately, medicine is very advanced nowadays and there's very clever things that happen, but we can't always make it completely better for everybody, and it's a bit disappointing really. We want to make everybody better and everybody well, but we can't always do it.
Sounds good. Evie, over to you.
Amelia asks if your days at work go fast and if you're really busy when you're at work.
Oh yes, the NHS unfortunately isn't known for being laid back and relaxed. And yeah, days do go very quickly, and I find I get to the point at the end of the day where I just have a post-it note on my desk of all the things that I meant to have done in that day, and I come into in the morning and work my way down as I can. So yes, definitely very quickly, but I quite like it like that.
Yeah, it must mean that they don't feel like they drag, for sure.
No, definitely not.
And I know that you and I have previously had conversations about needing a comfortable pair of shoes, because you must rack up the steps quite a lot.
I've actually got a spare pair under my desk in our office.
Excellent. Okay. I think the next question is from
Me.
From you, Charlie. Yeah, go on.
They all wanted to know what it has been like for nurses working during the virus.
Now, I have to confess, I'm actually very lucky in that I'm currently on maternity leave, so I haven't been at work very much during the virus. I've done a few shifts, but not loads. But it is very bizarre. The hospital on a whole is very, very bizarre at the moment. Lots of departments have changed completely. lots of things have been cancelled, lots of people have been moved, there's lots of people working outside their comfort zone, because essentially all hands on deck and everybody needs to do what they can and where they can. I used to work in intensive care, so I've got a lot of friends working in the intensive care unit in Swindon, and it has been quite scary for them, quite draining emotionally and physically. Not very nice, but they're there to help people at the end of the day, so they're getting through it.
We talk a lot at the moment about our well-being and our mental health. What tips or have your colleagues and you been using to sort of keep yourselves mentally strong at this time?
I think looking out for each other is really important. Actually knowing that even though you have to social distance, that doesn't mean you don't speak to people. The morale amongst the staff in the department, I think, is quite high still, because it's a nice team. And it's just about taking time for yourself on your days off. When you can get out and do your exercise out and about, obviously in a safe way, go and spend that time doing that to try and clear your head a bit, and generally looking out for each other.
Good advice. Evie, over to you.
Can you tell the whole class what your top tip would be if they wanted to be a nurse when they grow up?
Ooh, that's a good question. Pay attention in biology would be one. You're going to need it. I think that would be the main thing, to be honest. Make sure it's something you definitely want to do, because it's really hard work, but it is very rewarding at the same time. So yeah, go for it if someone does.
They were very excited about having a nurse on, I have to say. Charlie, I think it's over to you.
What ward do you work on, or have you worked on?
Okay, so when I first qualified as a nurse, I worked on a general surgical ward. So we did bowel surgery and eye surgery and ear, nose and throat. Basically surgery from here down to here, lots of surgeries. So they come in, have the surgery and go home again. I then moved to intensive care for a few years. So worked with really, really sick people there. I did a couple of years as what we call a clinical supervisor, so looking after all the newly qualified nurses. Basically, it was my responsibility to make sure that they were doing what they should be doing when they first got their jobs within the trust. And then I moved into pain management, which is where I am now. So I work within the pain management team, and we see anybody with any kind of pain, whether that be long-term pain or short-term pain, whether they've had surgery or an injury or whatever. So it's been quite varied, which is quite nice.
I've never actually asked you this question, but what's been your favourite?
Oh man!
Not in terms of colleagues. Should your any colleagues wish to listen to this podcast, but just in terms of sort of the medical and the day-to-day job, what's been the biggest one you've enjoyed the most?
To be honest, I think it's probably where I am now. I don't know if that's because I'm so much more experienced and therefore more confident in my approach.
Yeah, I suppose in any job, the more experience you get, the more you enjoy it, because you just feel like you're not as anxious anytime you're doing your work.
Yeah, and I quite like it now because actually we cover the entire trust, so I can go anywhere on any day and see any random mixture of complaints, and there's absolutely no predicting what you're going to get, and I quite like that. I quite like the fact that I'm not just in one department and we cover the whole of the hospital, the whole of the trust. So it's very varied.
Cool. Evie, I think you've got the next question.
Frankie would like to know how old you were when you first knew what you wanted to do.
That's an interesting one because I feel like I sort of fell into it. Probably about 18.
As you arrived at Cardiff University, ready to start?
Well, I wrote my application to do journalism.
Oh, I did not know this.
As I was writing the application, I was a bit like, I hate writing essays. Why am I doing this? So I changed my application, and I had actually done work experience in year 10 within a hospital at the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford, and I loved it. So I decided actually I was going to apply to be a nurse.
Well, that's so strange, because when I first started applying for uni, I was going to apply for nursing, midwifery in particular, and then I realised that I did not like blood, and that this was going to be a very poor career choice.
Yes. Poor career choice for somebody who doesn't blood.
And then luckily I found that I was not too bad at teaching, so there we go.
Yeah, I didn't actually know.
No, we've just learned something new about each other. How fun. Charlie?
Roberta asks if you really like your job.
Yes, I do. I love it. Some days, don't get me wrong, I get to the end of the day and just think, oh my goodness, for goodness sake, just get me out of here. But I think that's like anybody in any job that you will ever do. But yeah, I'd say 99% of the time, it's the best job ever. But there are the odd days.
I think that's really refreshing to hear. I think that's something we've heard from the 3 podcasts we've done so far. Everybody's been really honest and saying actually some days it's not a walk in the park. It's not always.
Some days I do cry all the way home from work, but that's not every day, so that's okay.
And for those days there's lots of chocolate.
Yeah.
So Evie, Charlie, do either of you have a question you'd like to ask our guest today?
I have one.
Go on then, Charlie.
This is one for you, Mrs. Malord.
Oh.
Some people feel a bit funny when they see blood. Do you have any tips of getting over it?
Well, Charlie, I'm now almost 30 and I still feel funny to the point where I actually can't give blood anymore because I just pass out. So
I have one tip when it comes to seeing blood, is actually it always spreads a lot further than you expect, and it always looks a lot worse than it is.
Yeah, because you once told me that the amount of when I was injured that it would look like a lot of blood, or we were seeing an injury and you were like, that's probably only a teaspoon of blood. Yeah. And I was like, no way.
It spreads a heck of a long way. It always looks significantly worse than it is. So it's something to remember.
I just go with the proviso that if I'm expecting for some reason to see blood, like change a dressing on a family member or whatever, I just eat loads of sugar beforehand and afterwards. That's the only way I can cope. Evie, have you got something you want us to ask, love?
Yeah. What did you study at school that has helped you with your job?
Oh, good question.
Can I do 2 things?
Yes, you may.
Obviously, biology, because you use it a lot. And I'd say sort of English and drama, because your written notes are so important in the job that I do. Actually, your written evidence of what you've done, why you've done it, being able to justify yourself in an articulate manner is really, really important. In case, for whatever reason, the investigation comes about or they look into somebody's care. So that's really important. And also, working within a hospital environment, you work within a team for 99.9% of the time. So actually, you need to be able to communicate really well. You need to be able to give your point of view across really well. As a nurse, you are what we call the patient's advocate, which means I am taking on responsibility for making sure that that patient is well, or not just that they're well, that everything that happens to them is in their best interests. So I am their advocate, and they're putting their trust in me to make sure that actually everything that's happening to them is for their best interest, for the best for them. So actually, you've got to make sure that you can get your point of view across really well to the other members of the medical team, and also communicate with the patients really well, because you need to understand what they want from their care and how they're feeling.
I think that's really I think that's really important, actually, because I think sometimes especially when you get to secondary school and you teach a subject, you sort of think, oh, I'm not really sure, like this subject it's not going to benefit me. But actually, to hear somebody, you know, as successful as you say, actually I'm using my biology and I'm using my English and I'm using my drama skills, you know, they all start right away here in primary. Like when we guys get you guys to, you know, write letters, you know, do that public speaking and, you know, reading out your work, it just goes to show that those are skills that you're building from now to potentially get to where Em is now.
Part of my job, we do a lot of teaching, and actually to be able to stand up in the lecture hall in front of 200 people, I wouldn't have, if you'd have said to me 10 years ago, when you're a nurse you'll be doing this, I wouldn't have believed you in a million years, because that's not what you think of. But it's all part of the job. It's quite a varied job, so yeah, it all has an impact.
These two in particular would not struggle standing up in front of 200 people, but I think that's very reassuring for the children that might be slightly more anxious about that. Okay, so we've been, the new tradition, as it's only our third podcast, is to end with quick fire questions. So you don't have as long to think about these answers. So we've got a couple for you that are just really random, just so we can find out a little bit more about you. Charlie, you're going to kick us off.
3 objects you'd take to a desert island.
Ooh. One would be my son, because I would miss him if I didn't take him. One would be some kind of communication device so that I can keep in touch with friends and family back home. If it's got the internet so I can get sort of books and music on, that'd be great too.
I don't know what desert islands you've been experiencing, but
you never know. And stuff that I can make my own, like, vegetable patch to grow my own food.
Good question. Okay, this one's from me. Your greatest success?
Work-wise, I would say that's a tricky one. I'd say one of has to be when I first sent a patient for organ donation or organ harvesting, which I know sounds really gruesome, but I think the idea that something so positive can come out of such a trauma. Those that haven't heard about organ donation or organ harvesting, it's essentially the principle that when somebody sadly passes away, that their organs can be donated to another person that's still alive but has organ failure for whatever reason. So I very sadly, it happens when that situation arises, the patient's always in intensive care, and I'll never forget the first time I had a patient that was a suitable candidate for organ donation, and we had quite an extensive conversation with her family, and her family were quite willing, that they wanted her organs to be donated to those that needed them, and it's really hard work as the nurse looking after the patient to keep the patient within very fine parameters of where they need to be in order for the organ donation to be suitable. But the first time that I did that, and then later on down the line when the organs have been transplanted into the next person, you as the nurse get a letter from the organ donation service telling you which organs they've used and who they've gone to. So I got a letter to tell me that various organs of the patient that I'd been looking after had been given to a 12-year-old boy, another organ had been given to a 54-year-old lady, and it was just nice that out of such tragedy can come such a positive thing.
And that's really nice. That process of you getting a letter as well is really nice. A nice way for you to cope with that situation.
The patient's family as well would have had a letter explaining where all of her organs have gone and who they'd gone to and things like that. So it's really nice.
That's really nice comfort. I think that I didn't know that. That's really lovely. Greatest failure?
Ooh. Again, going back to the fact that you can't fix everyone. Again, when patients get really sick, and I've had, unfortunately, some quite young cardiac arrests, particularly when I worked in intensive care. One that sticks out in my mind, a 17-year-old boy that we worked on for a really, really long time, and we didn't save him, which is heartbreaking for anyone. anytime. And I think just that situation that you can't fix everyone, you can't help everyone. Yeah, that's horrible.
Evie, over to you. On a lighter note.
Biggest inspiration?
Oh, it's got to be Florence Nightingale herself. I couldn't say anyone else. The Queen of Nursing.
Charlie.
Job you'd like to try for 24 hours.
Ooh, something that not many people can do. Like an astronaut or something like that.
Oh, cool. I thought you'd go for West End musical star.
Oh, I think I'd get a bit nervous.
Evie, have you've got one more question I think to ask?
Place you'd most like to visit?
Place I'd most like to visit. Oh, that's a really tough one. Iceland.
Oh yeah, you can take me there. I'll go.
Yeah, I've never done a cold holiday. Actually, that's a lie. I've been skiing several times. I've not done a cold holiday for a very long time.
Cool. Okay. Last question from me. What's something you'd go back and tell your primary school self?
Be kind, because people will remember the first impressions. Ooh. I'm still in touch with lots of people from primary school. Yeah, be kind to each other. Look after each other.
You can only make one first impression, so make it good.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your lockdown days to speak to us and share information about your job and your life. I think that what I listening to you speak, then I've realised, that at the moment we're, really praising our NHS workers because they're going, above and beyond, as so many people are in this moment. But actually, this is something that you guys weather all the time. Those emotions and those difficult days have only been intensified in our current situation, but actually without us necessarily recognising it, that's just sort of the daily life of a nurse. And there's lots of different ways that you guys have to find a way to cope with all of those things. So thank you on behalf of Shrewton Primary School to the nursing team and all the NHS out there.
Well, all healthcare professionals.
All healthcare professionals who are dealing with literally life and death every day. Guys, as co-hosts, great job on the first co-hosted edition. Is there anything you want to say to end our podcast?
No,
all good. Not really. Yeah, they are two of Shrewton's wonderful assets, these two, representing all of the wonderful children here. So thank you for taking time out of your days as well to help record this one. I'm sure we'll get way more views just because you two are in it. Okay, well, thank you, and I will stop us recording now. Bye.